the FOX6 studios, this is Ask Contact 6. This is the segment where we bring in experts to answer your questions. And today we're responding to your questions about contractors. We chose this topic because Contact 6 consistently hears from consumers about contractors. We actually got 76 complaints about them to our segment in 2023. The good news is there are many good contractors in our area, and we are going to talk about them today. We are doing this because our experience has shown us there's a lot people don't know about how to choose the right contractor, maybe what's in their contract, how to resolve issues, and so much more. So to answer your questions today, we have two experts here. We have Lisa Schiller from the Better Business Bureau of Wisconsin. She's a regular resource for Contact 6. Lisa, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jenna.
Oh, of course. And we also have Dave Hoffman here. Dave is on the Milwaukee NARI Board of Directors. He's also the VP of Sales for Transitions Living and Architectural Designer for DSH Design. That's a mouthful. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes. So we're going to get to our questions in just a minute here. But first, thank you to everyone who took the time to fill out our online form. We did paraphrase some questions that were on the longer side. And for clarity, also, Dave and Lisa will do their best to answer your questions today based on the information we have before us. Reading our questions for us today is our Contact 6 associate producer, Annette. Annette, what is our first question today?
Sure. Our first question is from Larry in McGuanago, and he would like to know, how do you find a legitimate contractor who doesn't charge a fortune?
Okay, I thought this was a good place to start because I know there are a lot of people who want to get work started, and that first step can be a real challenge, especially when you want to keep things within a certain budget. Dave, I'll start with you because you're right next to me. What advice would you have for someone who's just looking to start that project and want to make sure they find a legitimate person?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is trying to figure out what is or isn't expensive for what you're trying to do. So I call it the realm of reality. And if you have a project and the scope is large and your budget isn't big enough, you may have to readjust your scope to fit that. Coming up in 2 weeks, we have the NARI Home Improvement Show. There's going to be over 200 vendors there. It's a great way, get a couple prices, figure out, am I within my budget? If all the contractors come back and, you're not within that budget, and then you finally get one that is, maybe question why are they substantially cheaper or less expensive than the others, and they may be forgetting something. And I will say this is probably one of the biggest reasons why relationships go wrong, is just expectations are not aligned in the beginning, both on what is included in the scope and what you are getting for what you're investing.
Right. And sometimes a price might be too good to be true, and that should be a concern for someone if they're getting an estimate that's much lower than everybody else's.
That's most of the time the case when you ask someone a little bit deeper questions. Oh, I got the cheapest person. Oh, well, maybe sometimes the cheapest isn't always the best. And the other part of it is if they've been in business for a long time, you don't go out of business if you charge too much money, or you go out of business if you charge too much money and over the market. So the reality is that we all have to compete with each other. And the longer we're in business, the longer we understand what we can and can't charge for what we're doing.
And some resources people can check out when they're doing their research include NARI and the Better Business Bureau of Wisconsin. First, can you tell us a bit about NARI? Because I understand everyone who's a member has to agree to a certain code of conduct.
Yeah, we have a code of conduct. We have a handful of different things. We're all peer reviewed. So it's not just invest and pay a membership fee. We have to do that, but we have to do background checks. And then what is the biggest, I think, advantage for consumers is most of our NARI businesses use the NARI contract. And in the NARI contract, it actually gives the homeowner a lot of protection. Arbitration is something that's included in this contract, and something that, you can really, it's a layer of protection. But the last thing a NARI member wants to do is have to go in front of that, arbitration board and have to answer to their peers of why they're doing what they're doing. So it's a really good check on, hey, you have to, if you want good standing in the industry, you have to meet these, our ethics board. So, yeah.
Right. And another option is obviously to go to the Better Business Bureau's website and see what their rating is, if they have any customer reviews. What advice would you have for someone who's looking to find a legitimate contractor on a budget?
Right, Jenna. So we do have a website, bbb.org. You can find hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of businesses for free. You can read the reports. If there are complaints on the business, you can read the complaints word for word. Customer reviews, we vet and verify our reviews. You can read those, positive or negative. We welcome all of them. And I always like to push positive reviews, by the way. Take time to do that. And as far as finding a legitimate business, I'll kind of break down the question a little bit. I would say, first start with maybe asking friends and family what their experience has been, neighbors, who's hired who, were they happy with the job? Did they follow the timeline? Was the price good? And in the end, were they satisfied? And then from there, I would say, check, of course, with the Better Business Bureau, see what information we have on file, check with NARI, associations where these businesses that are accredited anyway, need to follow standards, just like NARI. The Better Business Bureau has 8 standards of trust, we call it, for businesses that become accredited with the BBB. So they have to be honest. They have to advertise honestly. They have to be transparent. They have to respond to the Better Business Bureau in a timely manner. They have just so long to answer a complaint. If the complaint has not been resolved, we can offer, we go for mediation. We can offer arbitration if necessary. And as far as charging, the consumer asked about that. I would say always get 3 estimates, shop around a little bit. Ask the business if they can come to your home. Is there a fee? Will they take a look at the project and discuss it with you thoroughly and then give you a price? As well, we have something called the Accredited Business Directory on our website. And all businesses that are accredited are within that directory. And all you have to do is put in the type of business you're looking to hire, a painter, a drywaller, a florist, whatever it may be. And up will pop all the accredited businesses. So we've already done your homework for you. We've, vetted these businesses. Again, they meet our standards. And then what you can do is email all of them or as many as you'd like, and ask them for a quote. So there's a request a quote, we call it, on our website. So it kind of makes things, a little easier, go by really quickly. So very helpful.
I would also encourage people. I see a lot of people asking advice on social media, and I think that's fine as long as you use it as a starting point and you don't just take someone's recommendation on social media. You also go beyond that and do your own research. And we also have a very transparent civil court system here in Wisconsin. So if you want to look up on CCAP whether someone has a lengthy history of civil cases, that might be an indication that maybe you would like to go with someone else.
So helpful. I'm glad you mentioned that because we always recommend that, especially in the contractor industry. Just pop the name in CCAP and see what, you might find.
All right. What do we have next, Annette?
Yeah, our next question is from Justin in Oak Creek, and this is what he writes to us. He says, I'm a disabled veteran. Are there contractors who will do free work for me? I have concrete rising that is causing a safety hazard and windows leaking air. So the question here is, are there contractors who work for veterans for free or at a reduced rate?
Dave, are you aware of any businesses that work specifically with veterans and try to help them?
Yeah, actually, our company in Transitions Living, that's one of the big things that we do. We also work with the county, Milwaukee and Waukesha County. There's funding that can be applied for and grants that they can get. And then we also offer a veteran discount or you want him to be careful. Sometimes that can be something that some people can take advantage of. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those things that still focus on getting the job done and getting the job done right. Because that's what we want. First off, we don't want to create anything, hazard to be even worse. But then there are some ways to get discounts. And I think it's just layering things in, maybe not starting with that question, but maybe starting with the problem and then working towards, hey, how can I fund this in a variety of different ways? Right.
It doesn't hurt to ask, hey, I'm a veteran. Do you offer any benefits there? I would also say just yesterday on Fox 6, we aired a story about a company called, or a project called the Owens Corning Roof Deployment Project that's teaming up with Habitat for Humanity to do work in certain areas. And they do projects just for veterans. And also, I know Habitat for Humanity does work in certain areas that affects a lot of people, not just veterans. And as you mentioned, there's funding out there available. You mentioned the county, and this person isn't in Milwaukee, but the city of Milwaukee also has grants for some home repair projects and forgivable loan programs. And there's an organization called Take Root Milwaukee, and they have a lot of information about that on their website. Anything else we should mention on this topic before moving on?
No, I think also just maybe one thing. There's a lot of veteran-owned businesses in the trades as well, and veterans understand veterans, so that might be a good place to start as well.
Okay, great. Thanks for that question, Justin. Who do we have next?
The next one is from Richard in Milwaukee, and he would like to know, how do you start the process with your home insurance company for replacing a roof and windows?
Okay, I assume this has to be after a storm or something like that, but is that always the case, Dave?
Not always. Things can happen, right? Trees can fall and stuff like that. Most of the time it's kicked off by a storm. I think the first thing is to understand what your policy is and what it covers. And then I think the other thing is, again, a great scenario, jump on BBB, jump on NARI, come to our home show, talk to a couple roofing experts. The last thing I would tell someone to do is, they're in the industry, there are people called storm chasers.
Yes.
There are a lot of times there are companies from out of state. A lot of times they're very high pressure. A lot of times they want you to sign a contract right there. I would avoid any of that. I would really try to, talk to a couple people. I think, again, talking to your neighbor who just had his roof done or her roof done, find a local company, I think would be the biggest thing. And then a lot of times the companies that are in the exterior contracting business work a lot with insurance companies as well. So everyone kind of knows how it works and they can really help you. But I think the biggest thing for me would be avoid the high pressure, avoid the company that says, puts an inflated price out there and then says, oh, for today, I can give you this. That high pressure stuff is really where you start to miss a lot of the details. And, that's where as a homeowner, you do have to be a little bit educated.
Is this a situation where you should get multiple estimates before you bring it to your insurance, or get multiple opinions on whether the damage is from the storm?
Multiples is always good. I think the one thing is making sure you're comparing apples to apples, though, is, I think, another thing that you have to be aware of, because you can get more confused the more information you get. Google's a very, very good example of that. Mm-hmm. What is or isn't true? I don't know. So I think when you, I would say first, this is a relationship in any remodeling project. And I think that's something that people forget. I think some people think that it's one against the other. And really, we're coming together as a team to accomplish a task. And I think if we take that approach to it, and even homeowners take that approach to it, and don't expect the worst out of this person. If you already expect the worst, don't hire them. Find someone that you expect the best out of and is going to really deliver. And then, maybe find 3 people that you enjoy, that you want to have a relationship with, that you think you can have a conversation with, and then start from there and then get estimates.
And if you do get a denial from your insurance provider, you can appeal that. You can bring more information to the table. It doesn't have to be the end of the discussion. So that's something else to keep in mind. Is there anything you would like to add, Lisa?
No, I think Dave said it all, really. I would just say I would start with my insurance company. If there's any damage, maybe start there. Make a phone call, talk to your agent. Find out, if what your policy covers, if you're not completely sure. See what their suggestion is as far as the first step. Do you try to find contractors and hire them on your own, or does the insurance company have, any part of that? You want to really, do everything right when it comes to storm damage. And I can't, agree with Dave more. Do not make a decision on your doorstep. Don't fall for any high pressure. We see a lot of companies and more every year coming into our neighborhoods from out of state. A lot of times people are caught off guard. They'll knock on your door and say, I was driving by, just did some work at a bunch of neighbors' homes, and I happen to see your roof, has some damage. We can help you today. We can give you this great price. We're here today. And a lot of times people are, they become, sort of scared and worried, and it catches them off guard. And so, they make a payment. They're not quite sure even who they dealt with, and they think about it later. And that's when they call us and say, I'm having a problem, or they never returned, or, the work isn't, what they promised it to be. And now they're not really quite sure who they dealt with. They maybe didn't get a contract or didn't have everything in writing, or they didn't get a business card. They don't know, certain pieces of information that are very vital.
Right. You don't want to pay for that convenience on the back end.
Exactly. Right.
Right.
Do your homework on the front end. Right.
And I think one last thing to highlight, start with the insurance company, like we both said, but also maybe start the conversation with the contractor that you need your roof replaced, not that you're getting covered by insurance. Not much different than when you go buy a car and you say, are you trading it in? No, let's work the deal out first. And then, oh, by the way, I might be trading my car in. I think if you start with the insurance conversation, that kind of puts people in a different train of thought.
Okay, that's good advice. Annette, who is up next?
Yep, Gene is up next, and he's from Hartford. His question is, how do you find a good solar panel provider? Who can you trust?
Dave, do you have solar panel providers in NARI?
There are a handful. A lot of the electrical companies and contractors are getting into the solar environment. There is one really great contractor, Watts Up Engineering. He has you have to sort through
Great
all this
name, by the
stuff.
way.
It is a
name.
great name. But I would say he's a nerd in that field. Like he understands what it actually is. And I think that's the hardest part with solar is it's sexy right now. And it's fighting through all the rebates and what are you getting and your return on investment and understanding that we live in Wisconsin. We don't get sun all the time.
What does that mean?
Yeah, and so it's really just weeding through all the things and all the sales tactics to get you to actually get on board. I don't know. Everyone has their opinions about it, but I think it's really just boiling down to the facts, and that is a tough one,
Right.
Because I think a lot of the experts would tell you it's not quite ready yet, but I don't know.
Lisa, I believe you know quite a bit about solar. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah, we have. I don't know how much I know, but playing devil's advocate a little bit, unfortunately, we see the other end of that. We see the complaints regarding solar panel providers. On a national basis, there are always law enforcement and government agencies looking into this nature of business. So it's something that you definitely have to do your homework for, I would say. Definitely shop around, ask a million questions. Know what you're getting, into. But certainly, if it's something that you're looking to do, it can be a satisfactory experience for you. But again, you have to really do your homework in this arena.
Right. But as Dave said, I do know there are good businesses in this space who operate in Wisconsin. And we've reported on this for Contact 6. So I do have some tips as well. As we mentioned, be careful about people who show up on your door, maybe who send you a mailer, those high pressure sales tactics. But also ask questions like, do you have a master's electrician's license? Are you certified by the MREA, which is the Midwest Renewable Energy Association? You could ask if they're certified by something called NABCEP, which is the North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners. And, it's good to say, do you have an office in Wisconsin? You find out if they're just salespeople coming from out of state. And if they do have an office here, for how long, because that tells you about the accuracy maybe of the online reviews. If they've been here 20, 30 years and they have good reviews, I think that speaks more highly for them than someone who's just new to the area. Not that there can't be good businesses coming in, given it's a new industry. But if you're concerned about that, I think that's a good way to go and ask those questions as well. And we also hear about people with concerns that their energy output was over exaggerated.
Oh, yes.
So you might want to talk to a few people.
I was just going to say that's the one thing to separate. They can be installed perfect. They can be done well, but the return on investment, a lot of these companies can do a great job, but if they're just delivering the information that they have and all, that. So doing the job well and doing the job right and treating you fairly and monitoring that return on investment are two dramatically different things. And I don't think you can hold the companies responsible, a lot of them, for that second part.
Interesting. Annette, who do we have up next?
Yep. Next is Kathy from West Allis, and this is what Kathy has to say. I'm just starting home improvements and I need a lot. All windows, doors, carpentry work, and painting outside. I only have about $12,000 and I'm worried about costs and who to contact. I tried last year and hired a handyman who did very little and bad work, so I let him go. The question is, how do I find a handyman for a number of projects?
I'm glad that Kathy asked about handymen, because I always feel like I could use a handyman and I don't know who to call. Do either of you have advice for tracking down a handyman?
Well, it's one of those things again. I would say, ask around, ask friends, family, neighbors, if they have a handyman and if they're satisfied with that handyman, is he willing to take on more projects? And then, of course, you want to start your search, check with the BBB, NARI, associations, and check CCAP as well. Start there.
What about you, Dave? Do you guys have handyman at any of your businesses?
Yeah, there are a handful. I think the one thing to understand about a handyman is you're paying for convenience, and you're never getting the scale of any project. So you you're paying a premium for convenience. And I always tell clients, no matter the project, you got cost, quality, and time, and you got to pick which two are important, right? So it's figuring out that the list was large, the budget was relatively small. So what I try to help people do when they have, is just align those scopes, figure out just give them some context. Hey, maybe your list is actually $25,000 worth of work. What are the couple things we can get done, either for your budget, or what are the things that are urgent that we can get done? Hey, if we do windows now, that's going to help with your energy costs and things like that. So I think it's really just trying to find someone that you can look. I always say everything in context. So I can spend more here if I know that that's going to cost less or whatever it might be. So I think it's just trying to find an advocate for you that could help you out with all those projects. And sometimes it's more just, again, that relationship. It might be less about the actual projects in front of you. But so a handyman is a tough one. We would love to employ a bunch of handymen. Unfortunately, the skill set and just the ability to jump into a variety of different projects is a tough.
Yeah, that might be a good one to start reaching out to people, asking opinions from your friends on social media, and then follow up with your own research into that person.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that question, Kathy. Who do we have next, Annette?
Next, we have Judy from Heartland. She would like to know, what is considered theft by a contractor? How do you go about resolving a contractor dispute and getting a refund for poor quality or damage to your property?
All right, Lisa, I'll start with you for this one, if that's all right.
Sure.
How would you describe that, theft by contractor?
So theft by contractor is when you've paid a contractor and the work is not done or not completed, and the contractor has actually misused the money. They've used the money for something other than your project, other than material and labor and all of the things that go into a project. And it's something that's very serious, theft by contractor. So, you want to actually, again, do your homework on the, forefront rather than have to worry about theft by contractor on the back end. And that includes not paying in full upfront. And not paying in cash as well is another recommendation by the BBB. Always pay by check or credit card. Credit card, gives you the most safety should you run into a problem later. But I think, a lot of times we see complaints where consumers pay, lots of money up front before the work has even begun. And, you have to be careful not to do that. Maybe make it a third, pay a third up front, a third when the project has been underway, and, maybe in the middle of the project, and then pay the balance at the end when the project is done and to your satisfaction.
It also probably helps to have really good documentation. A lot of people do handshake deals or just a couple jots on a piece of paper, but you're more protected if you have all of those receipts saved, the documentation saved and at your disposal.
Right.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I guess it's, again, a big benefit to NARI is that step before arbitration. And I can't Mediation, I apologize. Mediation or arbitration are something that every NARI contractor has to do, and every client is required as well. So it's kind of a two-step process. If that contract is used, the first thing that the contract or the client can do is say, "Hey, NARI, I want to have mediation," and we do it free. No charge to the client. It's something that everyone commits to when they sign that contract. But it's something that really, a lot of it is just conversation. A lot of it is not answering the phone. A lot of it is unaligned expectations. And it's just making sure that, hey, you know what? I'm amazed a lot of times when clients do have issues, they never did read their contract. Read your contract. Have it. And if a contractor wants to brush through the contract really fast, maybe slow them down and let's actually have a conversation about this thing and what is included and what isn't included. I would tell you that most of the time when issues arise, it's just undefined expectations at the beginning. someone either got a really inexpensive price and cool, I'm going to sign it and I'm going to go at it, or, just unclear scope. And if we can just alleviate most of that stuff in the contract part, usually this stuff doesn't happen.
Right. And obviously, theft by contractor is a criminal charge, but I do know a lot of district attorneys' offices sometimes prefer people go to small claims court if they're really bogged down with cases, and you do not need a lawyer to pursue something in small claims court if you decide to go that route. So that's something people can keep in mind as well. So if this is a case where you paid them for a project and the contractor used your money to buy a boat or something instead,
Yep.
it helps if you have a clear-cut case like that. You can try talking to the DA's office, or you can also try small claims court as well.
Right.
Well, and there is a scenario too where I think mentioned in the question was poor workmanship. By state law, a contractor has the right to fix that. So that is something that people have to understand. It can be a bad relationship. It can be things like that. But in reality, that's somewhat industry standards are industry standards. People have to meet those. If they don't, they have to have the right to repair that and fix that as well. And that's something that contractors have to do.
Right. Give them that opportunity to fix what they've,
All right. Well, thank you for mentioning that too. I think that's extra important. Annette, who is next?
The next question is on behalf of James in Hartford. James says the salesman oversold their products to him. The sales pitch lasted 2 hours. James wanted to think it over for a while, but was pressured into signing. The salesman claimed their business had an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, which was not true. The company was supposed to replace his dehumidifier and address a radon issue. He says the company ended up being untrustworthy and his basement can no longer be used. How can you identify a high-pressure sales pitch?
Lisa, I'll start with you for this one. If you're having that conversation with someone, what are things you can listen for and look for?
Right. So the two words that stuck out to me in that was pressured and claimed. So as far as high pressure goes, we kind of mentioned that earlier. It's very easy to get wrapped up. You're excited about a project. You're talking to somebody who's making promises. And again, you're excited to, have that kitchen remodel or whatever it might be, but you really have to try to remove that element. And you have to, think very clearly and remove the pressure and, stay to your list. What project are you having done? How much is your budget? What exactly do you need? Done and how much can you spend? What is your cap? Don't feel pressured to choose a contractor as well. You have to do your research. And as far as, claiming that they have an A+ rating with the BBB, it's very easy to check. And we hear that a lot. Some businesses claim to be accredited or claim to have an A+ rating. The ratings are fluid. They change all the time. So, depending on whether or not they've responded to their complaints or, they've had suddenly a rash of complaints come in, there's a lot of dependence on the rating of the BBB, which, by the way, is an algorithm in our systems. I think sometimes people think we go in and we can change the rating. That is not true. It's an algorithm in our system. So depending on the information that, is in that complaint that's plugged in, such as complaints, for example, the rating will change. But it's very simple to go to bbb.org or make a phone call to our office, 414-847-6000, and find out, what is the rating on this business? What letter grade do they have?
Right. I would have a hard time agreeing to something if they said, well, if you sign today, you get X, Y, or Z. Because, good companies are going to let you take your time to think about it. And if there's a huge financial incentive to signing right away, I would try to back up and take some time to think.
Right.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think all good points. I always tell people, if it's a good deal today, it'll be a good deal tomorrow.
I was going to just say that.
And if it's not that, then it's not a good deal. In the 2 hours, I tell people, appointments shouldn't really take longer than 45 minutes, especially a first consultation. There's not much we can't get done when we're having a conversation with someone, we're trying to figure some things out. Maybe it goes to an hour, but if I'm there 2 hours, or someone's there 2 hours, they're there until you tell them to leave. So I would just, sometimes maybe, if you are a little bit hesitant, hey, I've got an appointment, I've got someplace I got to go. Set a hard stop before you go into the appointment. Hey, I've got 45 minutes for you. And that might be a good way to, kind of just weed out some of those people that are planning on sitting there until you sign.
Yeah, keep that time limit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that happened to you, James, but thank you for the question. Annette, is our next question from Brian?
Yeah, Brian's from Racine. He says, I'm looking for a contractor to do an extension on a house. Who would be good in the Racine area? Maybe also just how do I find a contractor for a home extension?
I love how Brian is like trying to get an exact name out of this. I think that's great. But that sounds like a big project, so you'd want to get the right person for it. Dave, do you have any advice?
Yeah, I think it's again, where are you starting? Do you have plans? If you have plans, you can be looking for a carpenter. You can be looking for a contractor and that sorts. If you don't have plans, now it's really meeting with someone or a company that has design build capabilities that can sit and answer questions, figure out what you want, and then work to that to that end. Again, a great spot for the NARI Home Improvement Show coming up October 18th through the 20th at State Fair. I tell people it's about having those conversations. You kind of can do a little pre-interview before you ask someone to come to your house. And in the end, it's finding someone that you can trust, finding someone that you can have a relationship with, and then a variety of NARI members that can deliver on that project. But I think a lot of times it's just defining what is your starting point. I don't know. I don't even know what this thing's going to cost yet. Maybe I have a budget. Maybe I don't have a budget. Here's what I want. What is what I want going to cost? So it's really just having those preliminary conversations so that as you start down either the estimating process or the design process, the information you're getting on the back, you're getting back is apples to apples. That's a project where you could have a $60,000 to $70,000 discrepancy in what you're getting back, but maybe everyone's assuming something a little different. So the way the process really does work out well is once you figure out who you want to work with, most companies that are going to give you something back that you can act on, they're going to require a design deposit for. But that's because now you're entering into a contract of, hey, you've got a list of needs, we've got a list of solutions, and we're going to work to the end, and that is the process. And then from there, you enter into a construction contract or bid it out. But that would be my advice.
Lisa, do you have anything for Brian?
I'll just add real quickly that we mentioned our accredited business directory on our website. So you can plug in whatever type of business you're looking to hire, and it'll ask you for a certain mile radius. So do you want to hire someone as far as 20 miles away or stick closer to home? So that can kind of help narrow down, the area that you're in, say Racine, for example. So just a little helpful hint.
All right. Annette, our next question comes from Wauwatosa.
Yes, Richard in Wauwatosa. So Richard sent us a question asking whether a specific roofing and insulation company is reliable. We don't want to name names, but can we give him some general advice? How can I research whether a roofing company is reliable?
So we've touched on quite a bit of ways to research at this point, but there are other things, Dave, maybe when you're meeting with this person, things they should be offering you like lien waiver notices or anything along those lines you would also recommend that they might ask about when they meet with this person?
Yeah, I think, something that I'm trying to focus on, and we're at NARI we're trying to focus on too, is raising the floor. And what that means is all of these are, call it entry level questions, right? But there is also now the scenario of what takes you out of that entry level contractor and into someone that's an expert in their field. And I think that's something to especially when you're focused on one type of project. Remodelers, general contractors, we do a little bit of everything. But when you hone it down to a roofing contractor, now the question becomes hey, are you, what is it you guys do? Oh, we do a little bit of, okay. Or no, if you really master that skill, that's, I think, really something to really try to focus on. And that's really what we're trying to do at NARI is the accreditations, the being a good company, the having a good contract. Again, that's kind of just the expectation. And so we really want to try to focus on, hey, hire the best. And that's, I think, something to pay attention to, especially when you have a very narrow focus scope.
Yeah, that makes sense. Lisa, would you have any advice?
Very good advice. The only thing I would mention, I don't think we've mentioned yet, but check references. Yeah. Before doing these projects, ask the contractor for some references and visit them if you can. See the projects for yourself. Talk to these people on the phone. Did the company stick with a timeline? Did they, was the price on point? What was the experience like? References are very important. I'd say start with 3.
And references too, just remember, if they don't have any, that says something. If they have them, understand most of the time they're going to give you their best ones.
Right.
So just be, the biggest
Keep an
thing,
open mind.
if people say they don't have them, I think that's the big red flag, right?
Yeah, agreed.
But most of the people that are good contractors have good ones, and just understand they are picking the people that are going to talk nicely about them.
That's good to remember. All right. Who do we have next, Annette?
The next question is on behalf of Mike in Milwaukee. He says, I have a contractor that keeps blowing me off on finishing my project. I call and they never call back. It has been over a month now since they were last here. I just need my work finished. The question is, what should you do when a contractor stops responding to you?
Lisa, do you want to handle this one first?
Sure, I can start. I would say, first of all, if you're calling the contractor, they're not responding, they're not returning voicemails, try email and see if that brings you any luck. And if it doesn't, maybe start with a certified letter and see if that might work. And if, first of all, they should be promptly responding to your phone calls. I'll just say that right off the bat. But after, give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I mean, contractors, I think Dave would agree, are very busy and have been since COVID, probably more so than we've seen in years
delays
past.
happen.
And delays do happen. Supply issues are a thing of the currently since COVID as well. So, give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, contractors we know are gone like during the day and, they are getting home late. And so they probably have several phone calls to return. But again, you should be getting a call at some point. But, definitely I would try email, try a couple different methods. Again, certified mail is an option. And if you get to the point where, you're just being ghosted completely, that's when, it's time to, bring in a third party, like the Better Business Bureau. We can try to help you out with that. We can try to reach the contractor for you. Sometimes companies have designated a person to handle their complaints or to respond to the BBB's requests of any kind. So sometimes we can get to that person that can, get you a response quicker.
All right. Dave, do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, all good scenarios. I think, understand people are busy. Contractors are busy. The battle in the contracting industry is a lot of us are really good at a skill and sometimes not the best at all the other stuff. What we, again, trying with NARI is we try to give them resources that will aid them in operating the business part of the business. If you hired a NARI contractor, pick up the phone, give NARI a call. You get that call from NARI as a contractor, you better respond right away. And you want to respond right away because, again, now your peers know and things like that. And you want to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So very simple scenario as long as it's an NARI contractor. I promise you that.
Right. And while we're plugging, I'll say after you've tried BBB and NARI, you can always try Contract6 as well. All right.
I can vouch for
sorry.
Contract6.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's effective.
What do you have next, Annette?
Yeah, so the next couple questions are from our Contract6 case files. The first one is about a woman who bought a brand new home in August of 2022. Within 5 months, she noticed that the driveway and garage floors started to crack and chip badly. She contacted the home builder and was told they do not provide a warranty for the driveway and the garage. The woman then called the company that poured the driveway. That business said that the builder was supposed to give her information on sealing the driveway when she purchased the home. Her realtor says no information was provided as part of the building addendum. How do you determine who is responsible for warranty or who is responsible for work under warranty?
So I know this is a complicated situation with some twists and turns in it, but I also hear questions a lot about warranties. There might be a fight going on between two sides who say the other is responsible. Do you have any advice when it comes to figuring out warranty issues and who you should be turning to?
I mean, most of the time it's spelled out in the contract. I think it's just on a client's. So again, I don't know the exchange in new homes that are being sold versus you building a home for yourself. That can be a dramatically different process.
Okay.
And the information you have access to. If you're just dealing with the realtor, you're not necessarily the customer. You're not the customer of the, of the builder. So I think there can be a little bit of confusion in that regard. From a general contracting standpoint, we're responsible for everything. Now everyone that has a contract underneath us, you come to us first. We try to help you out in that regard. But it can be very gray with the new home. and just who are you actually buying the home from? And if you might be the second person and not the originator of that warranty might not transfer to you. So I think a lot of it is just really reading what you're purchasing, really understanding what you're purchasing. And I know real estate's tough because you got to like put a bunch of bids in and you might miss it and you're not fast enough. So unfortunately, speed can be most of the times the problem in this situation. But I think most contracts, if you are dealing directly with a builder, directly with a remodeling company or a general contractor, that contract will state what that warranty is. Also understand with certain affiliations and accreditations, there are industry standards that kind of go along with that. Again, if a builder is using the NARI contract, we tell them what that warranty has to be. They don't get to determine that. And a lot of times people use our really just basic contract. They just fill in their form. And it's a nice way to really kind of take out that there's as much protection in that contract, if not more, for the client than there is for the contractor.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to say, Lisa, before we wrap up that question?
No, actually, I think Dave did a good job. But again, I would just say all that information should be within the warranty.
Great.
It should be spelled out.
Wonderful. All right, Annette, I think this is our last question.
It is. It's our last one. So people often write to Contact 6 about unpleasant experiences with contractors. It's not unusual for people to tell us they've lost trust in the company and no longer want its employees in their home, despite work being unfinished. In some cases, we help them to secure refunds, and in other cases, the company finishes the work to the owner's satisfaction. Can you tell us what is the right to cure and how does it affect resolutions between contractors and customers?
So, Dave, you alluded to this earlier. Can you tell us a bit more about that right to cure?
Yeah, as a contractor, we have the right to come in and finish the job. Or, I always say there's a difference in new construction and remodeling. And remodeling is people get to look at your unfinished work and question what you're doing and why you're doing it when you're not finished with it yet. Well, our right is to be able to, sometimes things arise and sometimes problems arise and you might see them first. It's just how it works. So the right to cure is our ability to come in and take care of that and complete our contract. And that does become a very, firing a general contractor is actually a little bit harder than a lot might think. But that's because, both are entering into a contract. Again, you're a team. And I think if everyone kind of takes the team approach, you're going to come to a resolution that you like. When you real quickly start like you're working against each other, then chances are it's not going to turn out well.
Right. We often have people send us copies of their emails back and forth and their text messages back and forth. And I would warn people against using language that's too fiery or being too, I don't know. I understand their emotions flying high, but if you could keep it professional, I think that's best for everybody. And it would probably really help the relationship too when things seem like they're not going as planned. Lisa, is there anything you'd like to say about that one?
I would just say that, we hate to hear when people have an unpleasant experience, right? I mean, we don't want that. We all want a consumer to, hire a company and have a great experience and the job gets done and they love it. And then they write positive reviews. So, to try to mitigate that from happening, you gotta start from, the beginning, do your research, try to make the best decision that you can so that you can try to, remove that experience of having an unpleasant situation. And remember that a contract is a legal document. So once it's signed, both parties have to abide by it. And, like Dave said, it's not easy to get out of a contract or, it's impossible to get out of a contract in most cases. But you don't want to get to that point. So know that everything that's in that contract, make sure everything's in writing, anything that's verbal, have them put it in writing, make sure there's a beginning and a completion date. Do your research. We have some great press releases and information. We have a whole page on hiring a contractor. It's called Hiring a Contractor 101. And it spells out very concisely all the steps that you need to take so that, if you're uncertain or you might forget, you can just kind of check off each box. Are there beginning and completion dates? Check. Is there warranty information? Is it included in the contract? Yes. Did they tell me something verbally? And did I have them included in the written contract? You can check all of those boxes off. So a good place to start.
All right. Well, that is all the time we have for today. If you would like to submit a question for a future Ask Contact 6 segment, you can go to fox6now.com and click on the blue Ask Contact 6 button. Lisa and Dave, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Oh,
Pleasure.
this was really interesting. So thank you also to all the people who make this recording possible, including our executive producer, Sarah Smith, our chief photojournalist, Cale Zimney, editor, Dave Machuda, and also Lindsay Adele, who is working our video switcher today. I'm Jenna Sachs. Thanks for joining us.